So another way in which we engage, positive function in our as an organism, a mind and body, is getting into physical activity. We bring ourselves back into the body. People go running. There's all sorts of positive benefits from, burning off stress hormones by physical exercise. We're in the senses when we're doing this. We're in the moment. We're really engaged with what we're doing. We're not worrying about, again, the imaginary tigers. We're even really using our minds in focus in what we're doing. As it happens, Johnny Wilkinson is using a meditation technique to focus. He happens to be concentrating on the black dot that he's creating between his fists to bring his awareness into a state of less stress and not worrying about the 50,000 people either wishing for him to kick the ball through the post or miss, one of the two. So he's cutting out the story by using a specific kind of meditation technique to do that, to focus his attention there. And then taking a break, but so often taking a break ends up like this. Can you all read them, or shall I read some of them? Because they're quite funny. Sort of. I mean, oh my God.
Oy vey.
Oy vey. I don't know what that means, but perhaps you can tell me. Oh crap, someone is waving. I wonder what that's all about. I wonder what's going on back at the office. Damn seagulls are making so much noise I can barely hear myself think. Damn, I forgot to check the tide chart. I wonder if it's ebbing or flowing. When can I stop pretending I'm relaxed? Brain cramp, geez. So the second we stop doing something like, yoga or playing rugby or surfing, we sit there, there's not enough interest for our attention to be focused. And we go into this default story about what's going on. We're not relaxing at all. But of course, if you learn to do this, what you're doing is you're using the body here. This guy's using the body as a kind of magnet to attract the attention. He's concentrating on bringing his attention into the body in a similar way in which Eric's just led us through a guided practice, bringing that attention into the body, and it's kind of acting as an attractor to all of that, those thought processes, the attention that has got sucked away by those thought processes. It also sort of anchors us in the present moment in the same way that being aware of the senses with the girl surfing, she's completely engrossed in her sensory experience. It brings us into the present moment. It acts as an anchor, bring us into the present moment. And it slowly brings us into a greater sense of awareness of what's actually going on in our bodies at that moment in time. And things begin to clear, begin to settle. And this is what we mean by mindful awareness, a state where things are a little bit clearer. So how does this work? How does mindfulness awareness work? So the kind of practice is a very similar kind of practice to the kind of practice that Eric has just led us through. Bringing the attention, concentrating on the sensations of breathing, for example, in this case. The attention wanders, noticing that distraction, noticing our reaction to that distraction. We're being self-critical about failing to pay attention. What does that feel like? What does it feel like to fail to do this? What does it feel like when we notice we're thinking about something else? Just noticing the feeling qualities there of what's going on and noticing what's going on. And then returning the attention back to the concentration. But if we treat our mind like an animal that we're getting really cross with and beat it up, we're not going to get very far. We're going to get a more and more frightened animal. Our mind is very much like, the puppy here. It's going to be making a mess everywhere. It's not going to be able to maintain its concentration for very long. And the only way that we're going to be able to really teach this mind to behave in a way that we want it to behave, or follow the instructions that we want it to follow, or maintain concentration on something that doesn't have a very that isn't very magnetic to our concentration or our attention is to by continually giving it rewards on the one hand, being gentle to it, and being playful with the way in which it continually is distracted. So there are two aspects to what's going on here. There's a clarity that arises that comes from the mind beginning to settle, by beginning to become more aware of the body, or the breath of the body, or the attention that is getting, that we're bringing to the body itself rather than the thoughts. And then there's the noticing what's going on when we are distracted, and how we respond to that distraction and what the distraction is. And that gives us a sense of insight. That gives us insight into how things are working. Possibly what we might need to do. Sometimes the mind keeps on telling us about things we do need to get on with doing, even when things calm down a bit. We can't avoid paying the bills, for example. The mind will come up and say, we need to pay the bills, even if you keep on trying to find a nice place to go quiet and sit on your cushion. The bills still need to get paid, and the mind will remind you to do that. So there's that clarity that comes from the settling of the mind, and the insight comes through being able to explore what's going on.